Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And today I got one straight coming to you out of Missouri. As we all know, tonight there will be a presidential debate with ex-President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. And that brings all the eyeballs to the couch and to their seats to see which way they're going to go in this presidential election. But if you follow me on my videos, I tell people all the time, I think you should pay closer attention to your state legislators and politicians because the laws that they're enacting on you in your state generally has more of a direct effect on you than your federal and national laws. And this particular story is about Missouri. Missouri executes a lot of individuals. I think Missouri and Texas puts more people to death, inmates to death, or executes them than any other states. And this story entails Wesley Bell, who's a St. Louis County prosecuting attorney who just beat Cori Bush for the primary of running for Congress, U.S. Congress this fall, and our Missouri U.S. Attorney, Andrew Bailey. There's a conflict here with a man that's on death row for murder of a St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspaper reporter that happened in the 90s. And this is filled with whether he is innocent or guilty. And they tried to execute him several years ago. The ex-governor, Eric Greitens, put a stay on it. And now Governor Parsons, our governor in Missouri now, wants to go ahead with the execution that's taking place in late September in just a few weeks. So there's a lot going on here. So let's get into it. Missouri death row inmate agrees to a new plea in deal that calls for a life sentence without parole. A Missouri death row inmate on Wednesday dropped his innocence claim and entered a new no contest plea in an agreement that calls for a revised sentence of life in prison without parole. But the Missouri Attorney General's office opposes the new consent judgment and will appeal in an effort to move ahead with the scheduled September 24th execution of Marcellus Williams. So listen to this carefully. The complicated turn of events happened on the day that St. Louis County Circuit Judge Bruce Hinton was supposed to oversee a hearing requested by prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell, aimed at vacating Williams' first-degree murder conviction in the 1998 stabbing death of Alicia Gayle. Bell, St. Louis County prosecuting attorney Bell, had cited DNA testing was unavailable at the time of the crime that found someone else's DNA, but not that of Williams on the murder weapon, which was a knife. After a lengthy delay with lawyers meeting behind closed doors, Matthew Jacober, a special prosecutor for the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, announced that even newer DNA testing released on Monday found contamination due to handling of the weapon by a former assistant prosecutor and investigator. The contaminated evidence made it impossible to show that someone else may have been the killer. The murder weapon was handled without proper procedures in place, Jacober said. The improper handling occurred several years before Wesley Bell took office. Williams agreed to an Alford plea, which is not an admission of guilt, but acknowledges that evidence is sufficient to convict him. Under an agreement reached with St. Louis County prosecutors, Williams entered that plea on Wednesday. He'll be sentenced on Thursday. The agreement calls for life in prison without parole. Williams also agreed not to appeal. Marcellus Williams is an innocent man, and nothing about today's plea agreement changes that fact, Williams' attorney said, Tricia Bushnell. She noted that Gayle's family supports setting aside the death penalty, and the plea brings a measure of finality to the family. He goes on to say, but the plea doesn't guarantee Williams won't be executed. Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey is appealing to the Missouri Supreme Court as he seeks to move ahead with the execution, arguing that the circuit court does not have authority to overrule the state Supreme Court that set the execution date. Throughout all the legal games, the defense created a false narrative of innocence in order to get a convicted murderer off death row and fulfill their political needs, Bailey said in a statement. Because of the defense's failure to do their due diligence by testing the evidence that was supposedly proved their point, the victims have been forced to relive their horrific loss for the last 6 years. Williams is 55, was hours away from execution back in August 2017, when then Governor Eric Greitens, a Republican, granted a stay after DNA testing unavailable at the time of the killing showed that DNA on the knife matched someone else, not Williams. That evidence prompted Wesley Bayle, the St. Louis County prosecuting attorney, to re-examine the case. It says this never before considered evidence, when paired with the relative paucity of other credible evidence supporting guilt, as well as additional considerations of ineffective assistance of counsel and racial discrimination in jury selection, cast inexorable doubt on Mr. Williams' conviction and sentence, Bayle's motion stated. Williams, who is black, was convicted and sentenced to death by a jury of 11 white people and 1 black person. A 2021 Missouri law allows prosecuting attorneys to file a motion seeking to vacate a conviction they believe was unjust. The law has resulted in exonerations of at least 3 men who spent decades in prison, including Christopher Dunn, who was released last month. The Missouri Supreme Court set the September execution date on June 4th, hours after it ruled that Governor Mike Parsons, a Republican, was within his rights when he dissolved a board of inquiry convened by Greitens, the ex-Governor Greitens, after he stopped the 2017 execution. The inquiry board consisted of 5 retired judges, never issued a ruling or reached a conclusion on whether the new DNA evidence exonerated Williams. Governor Parsons dissolved the board in June 2023, saying it was time to move forward. So those 5 judges could not 100% say that Williams had committed the crime. And so therefore, Governor Mike Parsons decided to dissolve that particular board. In addition to Dunn, who spent 34 years behind bars for the death of a 15-year-old St. Louis boy, the Missouri law allowing prosecutors to challenge convictions led to the freedom of 2 other men, Kevin Strickland and Lamar Johnson. Bailey was not Attorney General when Strickland's case went to the hearing, but his office opposed vacating the convictions of Dunn and Johnson. Missouri U.S. Attorney Bailey also opposed efforts to overturn the conviction of Sandra Hemme, who I did a previous video on, a white female who spent 43 years in prison for a murder. Though that case was adjudicated through appeals, not a prosecutor's motion. A judge ruled in June that Hemme should be freed. Bailey filed multiple appeals to try and keep her behind bars. but Hemi was released in July. And please go back through my videos and listen to that case on Sandra Hemi. Very sad situation that she spent almost 50 years in prison. That I don't believe it was a murder that she committed. Strickland was freed in 2021 after serving more than 40 years in prison for 3 killings in Kansas City after a judge ruled he had been wrongfully convicted in 1979. In 2023, a St. Louis judge overturned Johnson's conviction. He served nearly 28 years for a killing he always said he didn't commit. Williams was the first death row inmate whose innocence claim went before a judge since passage of the 2021 law. Several other people have been exonerated of crimes were in the courtroom to support him, including another former death row inmate, Joseph Amrine, who spent 17 years on death row before he was freed in 2003 after the Missouri Supreme Court ruled there was no credible evidence linking him to the killing of another inmate. Prosecutors at Williams' trial said he broke into Gayle's suburban St. Louis home on August 11th, 1998. He heard running water in the shower and found a large butcher knife. When Gayle came downstairs, she was stabbed 43 times. Her purse and her husband's laptop was stolen. Gayle, who was white, was a social worker who previously worked as a reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Authorities say Williams stole a jacket to conceal blood on his shirt. Williams' girlfriend asked him why he would wear a jacket on a hot day. The girlfriend said that she later saw the laptop in a car and that Williams ended up selling it a day or two later. Prosecutors also cited testimony from Henry Cole, who shared a St. Louis cell with Williams in 1999. While Williams was jailed on unrelated charges. Cole told prosecutors that Williams confessed to killing Miss Gayle and offered details about it. Williams' attorney responded that the girlfriend and Cole were both convicted felons and they were out for the $10,000 reward. So this is an upcoming scenario where this man is supposed to be executed, Mr. Williams, Marcellus Williams, on September 23rd, I think. And I think this case should be talked about and be brought to light. As I'm telling all my listeners, please pay just as much attention, if not more, to who your governor is, who your U.S. attorney is, who's your St. Louis County prosecutor, who's your St. Louis City Circuit Court attorneys, and how they are voting and legislating. All of these laws affect us each and every day. And as you see, there have been at least 4 or 5 people here recently, including one white female who spent 43 years in prison, Sandra Hemi, up by St. Joseph, Missouri, that have been exonerated, let off death row, and freed. And now we have this scenario with Marcellus Williams, who's been incarcerated over 20 years, and he is saying he is innocent and the DNA match does not match. This is where technology is very important, and whether there's no match there, so how can you argue whether he was there or not? There were no witnesses at the time of the crime, and this is where DNA evidence, which was probably used from or was supposed to be used through our legal system to incarcerate and convict more people, what you're finding out with our technology today and DNA analysis, that is actually getting a lot of people out of jail that have been wrongly convicted. This is a cautionary tale. This can happen to anyone. You have race play in here. Black man, white woman who was the victim. She was a reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, which was the number 1 newspaper in St. Louis, which is going to bring a lot of media attention back in those days. Of course, we didn't have social media, but a lot of television coverage. And Mr. Williams, I think, got caught in a web with race play, male, female, gender issues, The atrocity and the heinousness of this crime for her being stabbed 43 times, they were probably just trying to find some perpetrator. And with him getting caught in this web, with all of those allegations, and you see this cloud hanging over there, over this, he really did not have no way out. If he is innocent and has been wrongly convicted, putting to death one innocent person, male or female, shows you that the system is broken and is not working, and it needs to be abolished and removed. I said to you before, Missouri and Texas, the state of Texas, put to death more inmates than anybody, and Alabama is a close third. Tell me about this, what you think about this Marcellus Williams case. I pray for the family of Miss Gayle, Alicia Gayle, for them to have had this happen to one of their family members. This is a horrific crime, but if the state of Missouri has the wrong person and are willing to execute him by any means necessary, and it shows that he has been proven to be innocent, that is one death where the state of Missouri, the blood would be on their hands. Tell me what you think. You think he's guilty? You think he's innocent? But there are cases like this that are running rampant all throughout our states, and it becomes a real issue if your particular state has death row and executions on the books. Stay conscious, use your critical thinking, stay aware, and make sure you know what your state and your city laws are well before you worry about your federal and your national laws that are on the books. Paying attention to the U.S. Constitution is very important, the United States Supreme Court, but also know what's going on with your state Supreme Court, your state governor, your U.S. attorney's viewpoint, your St. Louis County prosecutor's viewpoint. These individuals have the power to either let you go free or to lock you up forever. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-fearing way.